Course Overview, Class 1. Welcome to Next Mission. We are thrilled that you have decided to take this course as you are taking a proactive step towards your future. Right now you are in a transition stage because, chances are, you feel as though you have not yet finished understanding, telling, or wrapping up your military story. Going into the military, you received lots of training, which allowed you to be an effective member of the team. However, you received very little training for coming out. We want you to think of this class as more or less of an in-depth comprehensive outposting step that will better prepare you and provide you with training for transitioning into the next phase of your life. During your military service, you acquired many skills and many excellent values that were instilled in you. You're creative in your approach to solving problems. You take a proactive response to challenges that arise. You know how to respond quickly and execute tasks well in high-stress situations. All of which are skills and tools that are applicable in the civilian world. We want to get you thinking about where you've been, where you are now, and where you are going, and how to incorporate the skills and knowledge you gained in the military into your life going forward. I now want to give you an overview of the structure of this class and the way in which it will be taught. This class is going to bring together 3 components to help you understand your narrative and biological journey going into, during, and coming out of the military. We will be using a modified version of Joseph Campbell's model of the hero's journey as a narrative framework for understanding the journey one takes when going through the military. We will map onto this narrative framework the neurophysiological underpinnings of each stage. As part of understanding your personal narrative is understanding the physical and mental changes that occurred. And then we'll be using the concept of solutogenesis to give you the tools and resources for facilitating positive outcomes in the face of change and adversity, in order to help you take positive meaning and achieve internal growth from your military journey. Each class will be split into 6 modules. The structure of each class will be as follows: 15 minutes for homework review, 30 minutes on narrative, 30 minutes on neurophysiology, 30 minutes on solutogenesis, 15 minutes on an in-class exercise, 15 minutes on wrap-up and homework assignments. To help you understand how the narrative, neurophysiology, and solutogenesis components of the class tie together, we're going to take a look at this quick video clip in which General Amos tells the story of how a private in the Marines dealt with a very challenging situation.
I'd like to leave you with a short story about a young Marine named Ricky. Sergeant Major Kent and I spent this past Christmas in Afghanistan with our Marines and sailors. On Christmas night, we were up in the northeast corner of the Helmand Province in an area known as the Sangin Valley, where we were privileged to serve Christmas night meal to the warriors of 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. 3-5 is a Camp Pendleton-based battalion and has been in a hell of a fight against the Taliban for the last 4 months. It was there that we met Ricky. It seems that after fighting in Sangin for 4 months, Ricky received a Dear John letter from his girlfriend back home. It read as follows: Dear Ricky, I can no longer continue our relationship. The distance between us is too great. I must admit that I have cheated on you twice since you've been gone, and it's not fair to either of us. I'm sorry. Please return the picture of me that I sent you. Regrets, Becky. Well, as you might imagine, Ricky was shaken and hurt, but displaying the kind of resiliency and adaptability that sustains Marines during times of hardship and adversity. He asked his fellow Marines for any snapshots that they could spare of their girlfriends, sisters, ex-girlfriends, or cousins. In addition to his picture of his now ex-girlfriend, Ricky included all the other pictures of the pretty girls he had collected from his buddies. There were 57 photos in the envelope that he sent back to Becky, along with this short note. Dear Becky, I'm sorry, but I can't quite remember who the hell you are. Please take your picture from the pile and send the rest back to me. Ricky.
What's important to take away from this video clip is recognizing the level of resiliency that PFC Ricky demonstrated. Receiving a Dear John letter at any point is difficult, but it's especially difficult when you're deployed overseas. Now, Ricky didn't just sit down and cry about it. He took a very proactive step in response to his girlfriend's letter. He recruited the help of his friends to turn potential heartbreak into an intelligently amusing situation, and his response was particularly salutogenic. The military taught you to take proactive steps in the face of challenge, and remembering that the way in which you perceive things is incredibly powerful can help a lot in determining the way you feel about and remember events as part of your life story. Now, it's possible that right now you may not see the use of some of your military skills and how they apply to your civilian life, but we'll get there. And truly, the way in which you frame a situation has such a large effect on its implications to you and on your reaction to it. The brain is such a cool organ, and because it's malleable, you can train the way you see and react to things. That is exactly what happened when you went into the military, and that process started with boot camp. You were trained in a way that was adaptive to your being a member of the military. There's a lot of really good stuff that you want to hold on to, and this isn't a class about detraining, but rather about retraining and incorporating many of these incredible skills and experiences into your civilian life going forward. Another quick example that highlights in more depth the way in which our brain is central to our perception of things is this picture here. Take a look at this image. What do you see? The focal point of this picture can be interpreted in more than one way. Do you see a young woman? Can you also see an old woman? Can you see them both at the same time? What's interesting about this is that you can't see them both at the same time. You have to focus on either one or the other. This is an excellent example of the way in which our brains work. The same concept can be applied to any other situation at hand. You may be able to see more than one perspective, both the positive and negative sides, when you have time to consider things. However, it is up to you which one you choose to incorporate into your viewpoint, and what meaning you derive from the experience. You are in control of making the conscious choice of finding positive meaning in life. One thing that is important for any transition or journey is the support of others. As we clearly saw in the case of PFC Ricky, he called upon everyone in his unit to help him out. And in this class, that notion plays a huge role. We as humans are a social species, and that is reflected by the fact that social responding takes up an enormous amount of our brain thinking power, and can provide some of the best rewards in our lives. So, now that you have the general overview of the class, I want to spend some time going into more depth about the individual components. We'll start by taking a look at the narrative component and give you some background on Joseph Campbell and why we chose to use his framework of the hero's journey for this portion of the class. Campbell was a visionary in the mid-20th century who studied the stories, myths, and traditions that make up the fabric of humanity. He conceived of what is known as the monomyth, which he defined as the common thread or storyline that runs throughout heroic tales in every culture around the world, and which first made its appearance in his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. It is one that we shall be using in this class. This narrative structure, otherwise known as the hero's journey, Campbell broke down into various stages that pertain to the phases that the hero of the myth passes through over the course of his adventure. What is fascinating about Campbell's work, and why it is so applicable to this class, is that the monomyth is not just a way of understanding the histories that came before us, but it gives us a way to decipher our own stories and the journeys that each of us have taken. Campbell's original hero's journey consisted of 17 stages. However, because of its universal relevance, many others have modified it to create their own adaptation. What is perhaps even more remarkable is that visual representations of his circular journey have existed throughout time in innumerable religions and cultures, some in the ever-present form of the labyrinth or maze. The idea of life journey that we all pass through, hero or not, is not a new phenomenon. Campbell was just perhaps the first to give it a name. For the purpose of our class, we chose to distill Campbell's 17-stage journey into one with 8 stages. Though the other stages in Campbell's hero's journey are informed by archetypal truths and patterns, in the context of understanding the military journey, they are less relevant. Because Campbell constructed his journey on stories, myths, and histories of many different ancient and tribal cultures, aspects of the journey deal with general rather than individual specific concepts that apply to all people. What is apparent from looking at any interpretation of the journey is that he who returns from the journey is not the same as he who left. You grow as an individual through encountering challenges that force and foster growth both theoretically in terms of how you understand the world and physically in terms of the fact that your brain actually creates new neural connections. Our brains are built to be enormously flexible so that we learn and grow as we encounter challenges.